Okay, I know what you're thinking. We're getting another Stephen King adaptation, and this one has just been sitting there on the shelf for the past 2 years. There's no way that could be good, right? Well, there's actually a little bit more than meets the eye with this one. It's time to talk about Salem's Lot. What's up, guys? I'm Sully, and today we are finally talking about the brand new Stephen King adaptation that's coming to Max, Salem's Lot. All you need to know about this one is that the story goes like this. Author Ben Mears returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot, only to discover his hometown is being preyed upon by a bloodthirsty vampire. So I'll start this one off by saying that, like a lot of people, I'm a very big fan of Stephen King. I was lucky enough to take a couple of college courses focused on both his books and his films, so whenever there's a new adaptation of his work, I can't help but get a little bit excited. Salem's Lot, though, is actually one of his stories that I have pretty much no connection with. I haven't seen the movies, I haven't read the novel, although I actually just bought a copy of it because it's one I've been meaning to get to, so I was going into this one completely blind. I knew it was about vampires taking over a sleepy town, and that definitely got me interested because I feel like we haven't really gotten any good vampire material recently after Twilight kind of turned them into a bunch of sparkling emo boys. That threw a little bit of a wrench into the public's perception of their kind. But now we're back with a more gritty and traditional take. So does this revitalize the genre or stick a wooden stake right into its heart? Well, after seeing the movie for myself, I have to say the pacing is all over the place and the characters are pretty underdeveloped, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have a decent time watching this new version of Salem's Lot. One thing that might surprise you, especially since this movie is about pale, blood-sucking freaks taking over a small community, is that this film just isn't that scary of an experience overall. Don't get me wrong, the main vampire looks the part, and there are definitely some gnarly and gory sequences in here, but none that had the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. I'm sure that will sort of sound like a letdown if you're walking into this one knowing that it's a Stephen King vampire story, but I will say though, what this one lacks in legitimate scares, it somewhat makes up for in atmosphere and entertainment. It's kind of hard to put into words because there were definitely areas where the film falls short by a decent margin in terms of pacing and character development, but without over-analyzing some of its flaws, I was able to, for the most part, enjoy the early spooky season vibes it was throwing out. Like I mentioned though, where this one loses a lot of its steam is with its pacing and its clunky character development, and it doesn't really help that all of the performances aren't really anything to write home about either. This movie is pretty much jam-packed from top to bottom with actors you've seen tons of times before, but whose names you can't really put your finger on. Lewis Pullman is the biggest draw here, and he plays our lead character. You know him best as Bob from the national treasure that is Top Gun Maverick, and it's basically him and a young actor named Jordan Preston Carter who you end up caring about the most, and I enjoyed both of them in this movie. The rest of the performances are pretty unmemorable, a reason for that being that they're not afraid to let heads roll in this movie. But I mostly blame the script for that because it's always really hard to go out there and try to outwork bad dialogue. It makes some moments come off as awkward and unbelievable, which sounds ridiculous since we're already talking about vampires here, but it's true. Just to give you a little taste of what I mean, after one of the characters survives the first monster encounter, he more or less goes up to someone that's pretty much a complete stranger to him and says, "I know this sounds crazy, and I know we just met 3 days ago, but I'm telling you that vampires are real and I need you to help me kill all of them." And the guy he's talking to is just like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm convinced. It's just one of those things that makes the film a little bit frustrating since there are very clearly a couple of areas where the movie could be improved, and with more polish, we really could have had something special on our hands here. Again, as a fan of the genre, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it very obviously wasn't able to reach its full potential, which is a bummer. Overall, guys, this new version of Salem's Lot isn't any kind of a horror game changer by any means, but it's definitely better than I was expecting a remake that was filmed 3 years ago and debuting on a streaming service to be. The performances and the script are nothing to write home about, but I think there's enough creepy vampire action and spooky season vibes here to enjoy if you're a fan of that kind of stuff. It probably will never be anything more than a one-time watch, but you could do worse if you're looking for a halfway decent film to sink your teeth into. Salem's Lot gets a Sully score of 3 stars. So that's my review for the latest vampire film. What do you think is the best Stephen King adaptation you've ever seen? I'm probably gonna have to go with The Shining, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.